My sister got pregnant by my fiancé before our wedding. My parents supported her. I cut them off. We met at mom's funeral civil. But never sisters. Hazel here, to tell you about my worst experience. Okay, scratch that. I was hurt the most by my family. 4 weeks before my wedding, I was happier than ever. 32 years old, engaged to my 4-year-old love, preparing my ideal wedding. Everything was wonderful. The venue was reserved. Garden estate beyond the city. I have the altered garment in my closet. 150 guests received invitations. My younger sister consented to be my maid of honor, surprising me as we'd never been close. But I hoped this would unite us. Should have known better. Thursday night. It was typical for my parents to invite me to supper. The room's tension when I entered was odd. Dad couldn't examine me. My mother wrung her hands. My 5-year-old sister, normally lively and carefree, sat there with an odd, defiant look. She dropped the bomb. She stood up in the midst of supper, put her hand on her flat tummy, and revealed she was pregnant with my fiancé's baby and had been sleeping together for 5 months. 5 months. I remember the exact sound of my fork hitting the plate. My mother gasped but didn't defend me. Dad told me to calm down when I screamed. I recall my sister's blank face most. No regrets, shame, nothing. She stood like she'd said what she wanted for dessert. My fiancé called me 70 times that night. I never replied. My parents insisted we discuss this as a family and that these things happen. Such things occur. My sister cheated on my fiancé and got pregnant. This just happens. The worst aspect was that my parents switched sides in 3 weeks. I suddenly focused on supporting my sister during her pregnancy. Someone victimized her. Young, afraid, weak. I was betrayed, but no matter. Never mind that she'd shattered my life without hesitation. This bit still makes me sick. They used my wedding plans. All of them. The same florist, caterer, and location I'd reserved and paid deposits for. My mother called me to ask whether my sister could use them since everything was booked and canceling would be a waste. I cared. I was too worried to breathe. They did it anyway. After 3 months, my sister came down the aisle in a white dress, pregnant with my ex-fiancé's child, at the venue I'd chosen, with my flowers and menu. Only 3 of my extended family members declined. My aunt, cousin, and grandmother. Everyone else went, smiled, praised the happy couple, and posted images on social media like this was normal, beautiful, and not the worst betrayal. In my apartment alone, I drank wine and looked at my wedding dress in my closet. Life and clothes were meant to be mine. My parents continued calling to persuade me to move on and be happy for them. Get past it. They grabbed everything from me and asked me to grin and swallow. And I'll never forget it. My mother said I was selfish for making my sister's pregnancy about me. I recognized the truth then. Not only did my family allow it, they approved. They chose her. They picked the traitor over the victim. I choose to cut them off. They stopped taking calls, blocked them on social media, and relocated across the city. I was alone for the first time. I preferred it to being part of a family that could hurt me. I'm not talking about how I stayed broken. This describes what followed. I promise, it gets worse before it gets better. The following 4 years were hell. I won't sugarcoat. I spent the first 6 months in twice-weekly therapy attempting to understand how my family betrayed me. The therapist kept asking if I wanted to forgive. I continued telling her I wanted to stop thinking about them daily. I worked hard, got promoted twice, started traveling for business, gained new acquaintances who didn't know my background, and didn't get asked why I wasn't close to my family. I built a new life brick by brick, which was exhausting but necessary. Around 2.5 years, something changed. One morning, I realized I hadn't thought about my sister or ex-fiancé in a week. It was like breathing again after being underwater. I met him then. We met Henry at a Seattle conference. He represented his firm. His consultancy firm had grown impressively in 7 years. I laughed when we sat next to each other at a networking dinner. Actually laugh. Genuine laughter, not polite social laughter. That night, we talked about business, travel, and everything except family for 4 hours. I almost declined his phone request. I wasn't ready, but his glances changed my mind. He invited me to move in after 10 months of long-distance dating. I was scared. Last time I trusted someone entirely, it ruined me. Henry was patient. He never pushed. He let me pace everything. We were on his balcony at 2 a.m. when I informed him about my family. I'd avoided it for months, but he needed to know why I cringed when he mentioned his sister and shifted the subject when family came up. I anticipated his surprise or discomfort. He grasped my hand and said, "That explains so much about your strength. You rebuilt yourself from nothing. That's extraordinary." He proposed 10 months after we met. On a random Tuesday night while making supper, I asked a simple question without pressure or expectations. Of course I agreed. We planned everything. No family input, drama, or unchosen traditions. Only ourselves and 10 close friends attended our Italian wedding. It was tiny, exquisite, and ours. I chose my clothing alone. Our vows were written. I shed happy tears at the ceremony. I invited my parents to see that I'd moved on and established something great without them. No one came. My mother contacted 3 days before the wedding to say they couldn't leave my sister in such a hard time. Her marriage was failing, therefore, she needed their help. I hung up before she finished. Henry inquired if I was okay. Telling him I was better than okay. I was free, but life tests you when you think you have it everything. About 6 months after the wedding, we started trying for kids. Henry was 38, I 34, and we were ready. Month after month, nothing happened. We saw a specialist after a year of trying. I discovered I had fertility troubles then. Nothing terrible that prevented us from having kids, but it was difficult. Doctors advised treatments, monitoring, and interventions. It would be costly, taxing, and stressful. At that appointment, Henry squeezed my hand and told the doctor we'd do anything. We started treatment. Injections, appointments, testing, hope, disappointment, hope. It was awful, unlike anything I'd experienced before. This wasn't betrayal. It was about wanting something so badly and having no control over getting it. After another negative test, I broke down during a tough month. Maybe this was karma for breaking off my family, I told Henry. Maybe I didn't deserve motherhood. Maybe I was too damaged. He gazed at me with more passion than I'd ever seen and said, "Don't you dare let them take this from you, too. Don't give them that power. This isn't about them. This is about us." True. We would battle for our life and journey together. I didn't realize my old life was about to fall in the worst way. 4 years after I broke up, they called on Sunday afternoon. "Dad," I almost didn't answer, but something made me. He sounded exhausted and aged. He requested a serious discussion on family healing. He said it had been long enough, life was too short for this divide, and my mother missed me. I wanted to hang up, but Henry was watching me and showed me in his face that he wanted to hear them out. For me, not them. So I wouldn't always wonder if. So I agreed to dinner. Neutral, both families present. My parents, sister, and her husband were married. Henry and I. In the pricey, quiet restaurant, customers don't make a scene. I was stupid to assume that would protect us. My sister and her 2 children, a 5-year-old boy and a 3-year-old girl, arrived. Both looked like my ex-fiancé, which felt like getting stabbed every time I saw them. Boy had eyes. The girl smiled. I felt sick. Tired, she looked different. Gained weight and black bags under her eyes. Her husband, who I can't call my ex-fiancé without breaking something, looked uncomfortable when they sat down. He avoided my gaze. Watched his plate like it may save him. My parents initially joked about Henry's business and complimented my hair. Small chat like walking on broken glass. My sister managed her well-behaved kids quietly. Everything went wrong when dessert arrived. My mother asked if Henry and I were having children soon in that delicate tone folks use to hide something. Before I could respond, my sister chuckled. Actually laughed. "Good luck with that," she cut her son's cake. "I heard you were having trouble. That must be so hard. Wanting something you can't have?" The table mute. Henry touched me under the table, squeezing hard hurt. "Excuse me?" I escaped. Trying to look innocent, she looked up. "What?" "I'm just saying it must be difficult, especially at your age. I mean, I got pregnant the first time just thinking about it. All 3 times, actually. 3 times. "You're pregnant again?" my mother happily said. My sister grinned, touching her flat stomach. "We were going to announce it later, but yeah, another son. We're so blessed." I felt nauseous. Henry's jaw was so tense I believed his teeth would break. "That's wonderful news," my father responded, looking in my direction for support. My sister wasn't finished. She faced Henry. She stared at him as she added, "You must be so patient. I mean, if my husband couldn't give me children, I don't know what I'd do. But I guess, when you really love someone, you stick it out, right?" The inference, the tiny smile. Henry sprang up so fast his chair scraped the floor. "We're leaving." My mother grabbed my arm. "Oh. Come on," my sister added. "I was just making conversation. Don't be so sensitive. Please, let's not ruin the evening. Your sister didn't mean anything by it. You know how she is. She just speaks without thinking sometimes." They'd always made that explanation for her. Something snapped inside me. I didn't rest. Standing there, I watched my sister. First time in years, I saw her for what she was. Not my family. Not someone who erred. A person who purposefully destroyed my life without remorse. I said, "You want to talk about sensitivity?" Too quiet. "Let's talk about it. Let's talk about how you seduced my fiancé 5 months before my wedding. Let's talk about how you got pregnant and announced it like you'd won some prize. Let's talk about how you stole my wedding, my venue, my plans, everything." No family member spoke out to stop you. "Hazel," Dad warned. "No, I'm done being quiet. I'm done being the reasonable one. I'm done pretending any of this is okay." I looked at them. "You chose her. The moment she announced that pregnancy, you chose her. You didn't ask if I was okay. You didn't defend me. You just decided I should get over it and move on because it was easier than holding her accountable." My mother cried. "We were trying to keep the family together by sacrificing me, by using my wedding plans for her, by expecting me to just swallow it and smile." I chuckled, but it was painful. "You didn't keep the family together. You cut me out and pretended it was the same." My sister rolled her eyes. "God, are you still on about that? It's been years. Get over it. Get over it," I said. "You destroyed my life. You betrayed me in the worst way possible. And you've never once apologized. Not once." "Because I'm not sorry." Her spouse tried to seize her arm, but she resisted. "You want the truth? You never owned him. He wouldn't have approached me if he was. Men cheat only when they're not receiving enough at home." Henry stood next to me, ensuring stability. "We're done here." But my sister continued. I cringed as she looked Henry up and down. "You know, if you tire of waiting for defective items, you can find me. My fertility is obvious." The table exploded. My dad stood up. My mom gasped. Henry's fury darkened his features. I laughed before anyone else spoke. Really laughed. Originating from the bottom. "You think that was flirting?" I asked her. "You think that makes you desirable? You're pathetic. You stole my fiancé because you couldn't stand that I had something you didn't. And now you're sitting here pregnant with your third child in a marriage that's clearly falling apart. Trying to seduce my husband because you still can't stand that I'm happy." Her horrified spouse looked at her. "Good. Show him his true spouse. You want to discuss damaged goods? Look in the mirror. You're 27 years old, married to a man who hardly looks at you, raising kids in a betrayed home. Your son will grow up knowing his father cheated on his aunt for his mother. His Genesis story, good luck explaining it." "That's enough," Dad said. But his voice was weak. I faced him. "You're right. It is enough. I'm done. I came here tonight because you asked me to. Because some small part of me hoped you'd finally take responsibility for what you enabled. But nothing's changed. She's still the same manipulative person she was 4 years ago. And you're still making excuses for her." I stared at her husband, the man I thought I'd marry. Red-faced and mute, he stared at his plate. "And you? You wouldn't talk. You've been sitting there all night like a scolded child, without defending your wife, yourself, or anything. You are the coward I suspected." He spoke, possibly to apologize or defend himself. I raised my hand. "Save it. Whatever you were going to say, I don't care. You're irrelevant. You were irrelevant the moment I left that apartment 4 years ago. You're just a bad memory, and you don't get to be anything more than that." Grabbed my purse. Henry was up, preparing to depart with me. "This family is dead to me," I muttered, gazing at each one. "Not because of the betrayal. I could have eventually forgiven that. But because none of you thought I deserved better, none of you stood up for me. And even now, even tonight, you're still choosing her." My mother wept. "Please don't do this. I'm not doing anything. You did this years ago. I'm just finally accepting it." I didn't glance back when we left the eatery. Henry drove us home quietly. After arriving at our flat, I broke down. I was free, not unhappy. Free at last. I learned that freedom has a complicated cost. I was still processing that dinner disaster 3 weeks later. Henry insisted I did the right thing, that standing up for myself was healthy, and that cutting them off was justified. However, late at night when I couldn't sleep, I replayed the evening and felt corrosive vindication and wrath. I needed to discuss it. But Henry was tired of the topic, and my therapist couldn't see me for another week. I did what countless do when they need to vent. Went online. I found this family estrangement support group. Anonymous usernames and stories. All had experienced family trauma. I read dozens of posts about narcissistic parents, abusive siblings, and toxic relatives who did awful things. It was strangely comforting to be not alone. I uploaded and wrote the entire story: betrayal, wedding, 4 years of silence, supper, etc. I was cautious. I avoided names and cities, keeping the story vague enough to be anyone's. I wanted to vent and get it out of my system. The support was swift and tremendous. I received hundreds of comments saying I did the right thing, My family was poisonous, and I deserved more. It felt great, like affirmation I didn't realize I needed. I obsessively monitored the post for days. Each comment triggered something I didn't want to address. My aunt, who declined my sister's wedding, called me 4 weeks later. "Hazel," she asked gently, "did you post about your sister online?" I froze. "What?" "There's a story going around town about a woman who got pregnant with her sister's fiancé and stole her wedding. Everyone's talking about it. The details are too specific. It has to be about your family." I was afraid to vomit. Posted in anonymous support group. Using no names. How would someone have identified enough details to connect dots? You understand people. They patch things together and spread it on social media. Group conversations everywhere. "It reached your sister." "Good." I answered without thinking. My aunt was quiet for a while. "Hazel, I understand you're angry. God knows you have every right to be, but this is going to have consequences." She was right. Consequences came quickly. My sister was laid off first. She worked at a neighborhood medical office where the tale circulated quickly. Her supervisor summoned her in and stated she wasn't a suitable fit for their family-oriented practice and needed to protect her professional reputation. Within a week, she was fired. Social ramifications followed. She became known in the grocery store, her kids' school, and around town. She went from unknown to famed. They stopped hearing from her husband's family. Some of their couple mates became very busy when making plans. I listened to my aunt's family grapevine account. I listened to every detail with a spooky satisfaction. My aunt said, "They're talking about moving," during a call. "Your sister can't show her face anywhere without people whispering." Someone actually approached her at the pharmacy and told her she should be ashamed of herself. Should have felt horrible. Despite my anonymous post's public humiliation, I didn't feel sorry. "Not really. She is ashamed of herself," I remarked. "She should be." "No, don't. She destroyed my life and felt nothing. Now people know what kind of person she is. That's not my fault. That's just truth catching up." Despite saying that, something seemed wrong. I wanted consequences for her. Yes. I wasn't happy watching her lose everything and see her life fall apart like mine. Henry discovered me one night browsing social media for mentions of the tale and my sister's name to see what people were saying about her. "What are you doing?" he inquired quietly. "Just looking." "You've been looking for hours." He sat beside me. "This isn't healthy." "She's losing everything," I remarked, glancing at the television. "Her job, her friends, her reputation, everything. And how does that make you feel?" I didn't respond since the reality was complicated. I was content. Felt justified. But I also felt something darker, making me uneasy with myself. I felt powerful but uneasy. "I didn't name her," I concluded. "I didn't do this to her. This is just consequences of her own actions." Henry grabbed my phone. "Maybe. But you're spending every free moment watching those consequences unfold. That's not moving on. That's obsession." He was right. I knew he was right. I couldn't stop. My sister sued me. That was her dire situation. She hired a lawyer and sued me for defamation.